Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're taking a look at a brand new Pokemon in the world of Pokemon Go, Origin Palkia, and its new legacy move Spacial Rend in the Master League. This Pokemon just released at Sinnoh Tour LA, and I'm recording this from my hotel room. Origin Palkia has the exact same typing as regular Palkia, Dragon Water, but the Origin form has way better stats. Combining the way better stat product with a new legacy move Spacial Rend, 95 damage, 50 energy, and this catapults Origin Palkia into the top echelon of Master League meta, and in my view, it's a must-have Pokemon. So without further ado, let's check it out in some Masters test matches. Hopping into the first match, leading Origin Palkia into Dragonite, the battle of super effective damage, but as you can see, there is a clear advantage here for the Origin Palkia. Origin Palkia is going to be able to shield once, fully Dragon Breath down, and leave with a massive amount of energy to threaten whatever my opponent decides to send in. Spacial Rend will hit incredibly hard neutrally. They choose to send in Landorus. Landorus will be met with Aqua Tail after Aqua Tail. Now, we're not used to Aqua Tail doing a whole lot of damage. It's not known for being a particularly strong move, but Aqua Tail here does a lot of damage. Opponent can't even farm down. They're forced to throw energy just on its own. Origin Palkia basically taking out two Master League Pokemon, and now I can send in my Landorus. Opponent is going to be firing off energy. My goal here is to tank the move and just look to overfarm and exit with a lot of energy so I can hopefully debuff whatever my opponent has in the back. So I am going to be firing off the Sandsear Storm to pick up the knockout. In the back, my opponent has Ho-Oh, so they were triple weak to Origin Palkia. This is tough as I have Solgaleo in the back. It all comes down to Landorus. Landorus on 1 HP, able to tank the Incinerate and make it to the Stone Edge. Stone Edge will pick up the KO onto Ho-Oh, and that is a good game. Moving into the next match, leading Origin Palkia into Hisuian Avalugg. Hisuian Avalugg is well known at being incredibly effective at double shielding, icy winding, and being able to win switch. But the interesting thing is Origin Palkia actually wins the twos. My opponent safe switches into a regular Palkia. This is a debuffed Spacial Rend, and it's still almost one-shots. Just unbelievable damage from this new move. They're going for the Aqua Tail. I decide to shield and go for a Mud Shot down. This way, if they send in the Avalugg, I can very comfortably grab that shield back, as I can hit for super effective damage. The opponent does not want to let that happen, so instead they send in their final Pokemon, which is Zarude. Zarude will be hit with the Stone Edge, farming up with the Landorus. Landorus makes it to the Stone Edge on what would have been charge attack priority. My opponent not going to let that happen, so they end up going for the extra. I've gotten the Zarude extremely low, and from here, I should just be in a winning position, as my opponent is very close to a second move, but one Fire Spin will pick up the knockout, and now, unfortunately for their Avalugg, they are stuck in a basically unwinnable position versus my Solgaleo. I'm going to be firing off the Psychic Fangs. The Psychic Fangs is going to connect, and from here, honestly, I can even just switch into the Origin Palkia and get the farm down. A more budget version of this team would be Origin Palkia with the Landorus and then Ho-Oh in the back. I did think about the Ho-Oh, but I wanted to put the Solgaleo on the team. And honestly, this team was just absolutely destroying in these practice battles. It was unbelievable to see. We see an unbelievable lead in the next match, leading Origin Palkia into the Solgaleo. Opponent save switches into Kyurem. I'm going to farm up, bank some energy for later on Palkia, and then I'm going to send in my Solgaleo. My opponent is just going to look to continually debuff with Glaciate. Ideally, I would love to be able to stall out the switch timer here, because I'm going to be able to farm down and exit with energy, but I'm going to be heavily debuffed. So being able to reset the debuff would definitely be very, very nice. I'm looking for the farm down, but the Kyurem will not be denied. There's a reason why Kyurem is one of my favorite Master League Pokemon ever. It's just so incredibly deadly on the safe switch. In comes my opponent's Solgaleo. I'm able to switch out and send in the Landorus. This is big. I saved a ton of energy onto my Solgaleo for later in the match, and my opponent is not switching. So whatever they have in the back, they want to use it to try and defeat Origin Palkia. The Sandsear Storm is going to connect. That, of course, does massive damage onto the Solgaleo. Solgaleo will return fire with the Psychic Fangs. I'm farming up, and I go for the last second Sandsear Storm. Opponent has to shield this if they want to preserve the Solgaleo. They do not. In the back, it's Xerneas. Now this looks tough, but I saved all that energy. I saved all that energy on my Solgaleo, and now I can go for the double Psychic Fangs. This is enough for an Iron Head, so that my opponent is actually going to respect it with a shield, and now I can just go for another Psychic Fangs, send in the Origin Palkia, and Origin Palkia is going to be able to win this game. as Aqua Tail into a double debuffed Xerneas is going to be doing quite a lot of damage. That forces their final shield. I'm going to be shielding up the Moonblast, and from here, this is just a very straightforward win con. Farming up energy, going for the Aqua Tail, and that's kind of how the team is structured, basically. Origin Palkia can do neutral to positive against just about anything you're going to see that isn't Dialga, Xerneas, or Zacian, so you have 2 mons in the back that just beat both of those, and then you're in a pretty comfortable spot, and we're able to take the win. Moving into the next match, we see Palkia Origin going up against Zygarde. This matchup is winnable for Palkia Origin in the ones if you don't get Crunch debuffed. And my opponent does get the Crunch debuff, so I'm going to be going for the Aqua Tail bait and a switch out. Spacial Rend would do a ton of damage, so my opponent is going to commit the shield. And now I can save some energy on Palkia for later, send in the Landorus, and since they stay in, I'm going to go for a debuff. This debuff makes them not want to throw their energy, so they're just going to look to reset the debuff here, and they're going to send in a Solgaleo. So they are extremely weak to a Landorus up energy. The Sandsear Storm connects. That does massive damage. My opponent is going to make it to a Psychic Fangs, but I really don't have to respect this. Ideally, in this instant, I would love to go for an undercharged Sandsear Storm and a farm down, but as you're going to see, I don't do nearly enough of an undercharge, and that just picks up the knockout there, which is a bit unfortunate, as I would love to leave with extra energy. Back in comes the Zygarde. Zygarde will be hit with the Sandsear Storm. This will get them low. The question is, can I snipe them with Dragon Breath? In comes the Palkia, they save it on 1 HP, and all that's left in the back is going to be Kyurem. I fire off the Aqua Tail, unable to make it to the Spacial Rend, but I have the Solgaleo in the back. Kyurem's so neutral into just about anything you can encounter in the Master League, but not neutral against the Solgaleo. Solgaleo is just a complete wall. I am running the Solar Beam on the Solgaleo. Unfortunately, didn't get to land any Solar Beams in these battles, but it is a very fun get-out-of-jail-free card if you get stuck up against a Kyogre. So I'm going to fire off the Psychic Fangs here. I know they have an Earthquake banked. I would love the 2-shield flex, but they don't throw it right away, so I am going to have to shield the Solgaleo. I would have loved that catch. That catch would have been terrific, but unfortunately, no catch for me, but we do still beat Zygarde Solgaleo. Tough lead in the next match, leading Origin Palkia into Dialga. I'm farming up energy. Oh, I even overfarmed by 1 to avoid the catch, and the opponent just times it perfectly. They get the catch, and this is going to be tough, as my opponent, they didn't have a good response to a Landorus up energy, but they made the catch that they had to make to now potentially put them in a winning position. I'm firing off the Stone Edge. Stone Edge is going to be shielded up by my opponent. So they are looking to keep their Landorus healthy, and they can just go for Sandsear Storm here. I'm going to let this through. This game is going to be very difficult because odds are they probably have a Ho-Oh in the back. And with a Ho-Oh in the back, of course, my Solgaleo is going to be in a lot of trouble. I will be able to absorb the damage here from a Sandsear Storm, so I am going to let that through. Look to overfarm as much as I possibly can and go for the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail, of course, will pick up the knockout. And then I'm looking to send in the Solgaleo, but I'm expecting to be met with Ho-Oh. This game is going to require perfect energy management if I'm going to win. I've basically been hard counted on the lead and now hard counted on the closer, but let's see what we can do. I'm able to make it to another Psychic Fangs. This Psychic Fangs is going to be getting them below half HP, and they're going to have to start firing off energy here. They farm to 100. They're going to go for the Sacred Fire. I'm going to let this go and just go for farm on the Origin Palkia. They undercharge to get extra farm. A nice play by my opponent. I send in the Palkia. My opponent is going to go for a Brave Bird here to try and limit the farm. And I'm going to look for this big farm down. I get the farm down. I think it's going to come down to a bait call. This will be close. They're firing off energy here. Can I get to an Aqua Tail, get it shielded, and make the Spacial Rend? If I can, I win this game. Can we overcome the triple hard counter at all odds? The Aqua Tail bait gets shielded, but we're just short of the Spacial Rend. Hopping into the next match, leading Origin Palkia into Mewtwo. This is a matchup where the extra bulk from Origin Palkia compared to the regular is a lot better, as you tank a Side Strike substantially better than if you're the regular Palkia. So the Side Strike is going to connect. It does a lot, but you are able to withstand it a lot better. And now I build up past the Spacial Rend, and I'm going for the bait with the Aqua Tail. The Aqua Tail bait gets called. I try and go for the catch onto Solgaleo, but unfortunately my opponent is able to react in time, fire off the Shadow Ball, and then send in their own Solga. I'm going to farm up to bluff a potential Flamethrower, and I don't see my opponent sneak. So this looks like this could have been a CMP tie. The Psychic Fangs bait gets shielded, and it is a CMP tie. That is a massive CMP tie for me, as I had made a lot of mistakes to start the game, but with that, we may have an opportunity. I can send in the Landorus. Landorus farming up. My opponent is going to be firing off some energy here. They will go for the Psychic Fangs. That's not going to be a problem. I'm looking to farm up and go for the Sandsear Storm. This will very easily pick up the knockout here. My opponent is going to commit the final shield, so they are looking to continue to chip away at the HP of the Landorus. I'm going to be committing the shield, looking to farm up. Opponent sends in the Mewtwo, but they're unable to get the catch. Back in comes the Solgaleo. Solgaleo will be knocked out with the Sandsear Storm, and what does my opponent have in the back here? In the back, they have Kyurem, and I'm able to make it to the Stone Edge, and a Stone Edge will get them low. In comes the Origin Palkia, and I'm able to make it to the Aqua Tail. The extra bulk on the Origin Palkia cannot be stated enough how nice it is, as we're able to take the win. We've got a mirror lead in the next match, Origin Palkia versus Origin Palkia. I'm going to be farming up to the Spacial Rend, going for the Aqua Tail, but I do lose the coin flip charge attack priority tie. My opponent baits with the Aqua Tail. Oh, that just hurts the shield and Aqua Tail. I'm going to be baiting back, though. The Aqua Tail bait does get the shield. I'm going to pivot into Landorus. I'm trying to make it to the Sandsear, but I'm going to be forced to shield. I know how much damage an Aqua Tail does from this thing to a Landorus. I'm going to look to overfarm and then go for the Sandsear Storm. The Sandsear Storm will pick up the knockout as the opponent chooses to let it through. We'll have to see what they have in the back. They have their own Landorus. This core of the Origin Palkia plus Landorus is very difficult to break. It's an extremely strong core with Origin Palkia just incredibly oppressive neutrally. My opponent overfarms and accidentally plays to a CMP tie that they do not win. That's pretty nice for me as I try and fight back in this game. Maybe I should have just stayed in the lead instead of switching out, because switching out definitely put me at a disadvantage. I send in the Palkia, but I'm just not able to make it to the Aqua Tail, and I think I am just low enough that a Sandsear will knock out. Can I get the farm down with Solgaleo? The Landorus on 1 HP survives, makes the Sandsear Storm. In the back, it's a Xerneas. Oh no, and I'm just thinking about what could have been. If I just stayed in the lead and just played that out, then I could have ended up with my Solgaleo on a Xerneas, which would have been great, but with the amount of damage I've already taken, my opponent will take the win. Moving into the next match, leading Origin Palkia into Meloetta. Meloetta can have a variety of things in the back, so I am still going to safe switch into my Landorus just to check and see if they have something like a Kyogre that I need to bait out. I undertap the Sandsear and my opponent reads me like a book, catching the Sandsear onto their own Landorus. That's extremely unfortunate for me, and they're going to be able to outpace here as they did get a mudshot through when they got the catch. So Stone Edge will pick up the knockout. I can send in the Palkia. With the little bit of farm that I got before switching out in the Meloetta matchup, I am able to make it to the Aqua Tail, and Aqua Tail will pick up the KO. In comes the Meloetta. I'm farming up with the Origin Palkia, and I get the catch of the Psyshock onto the Solgaleo, where it's double resisted, doing absolutely no damage. In the back, my opponent has their own Solgaleo. I'm going to farm up and bluff the Flamethrower. I have run Flamethrower previously. I was just running Solar Beam on a different team and didn't really want to use a Charge Gem, and my opponent does not respect the Flamethrower. This is a tough call. I decide to respect it, and I'm so happy that I did, as my opponent does have the Flamethrower. I'm just going to be going straight for the Psychic Fangs now. They know that I don't have the Flamethrower. I'm continuing to farm up, making it to the Psychic Fangs, and the best buddy boost comes in clutch on the Solgaleo as I do win charge attack priority, and they decide to let it through. In comes the Meloetta, but it's going to be really tough to try and quick attack down a Solgaleo. The Solgaleo plus Origin Palkia core is just devastatingly strong as well. It's part of why I did want to run this team, is it's two extremely strong cores, and on top of that, the Landorus is basically just the best safe switch in the format. So they're able to go for a Psyshock and pick up the knockout, but I can send in the Palkia, and I'm able to make it to the Spacial Rend, and I want to see that cool animation again. So we're going to go for the Spacial Rend, and we're going to take the win. Hopping into the final match, picking up a tough lead, Origin Palkia into Dialga. I safe switch into my Landorus, and my opponent is going to respond with a Giratina Origin. Giratina is something that my Solgaleo wouldn't want to see. So far, the team working exactly as intended. We're drawing out Pokemon to help let the Solgaleo sweep in the back. and I'm able to apply some very nice pressure onto this Giratina, able to get a second Sandsear Storm. They're now double debuffed, they're forced to throw energy, and I'm going to be able to get a nice farm down with the Origin Palkia, take basically no damage because they're debuffed, and I'm going to be able to outpace the Dialga. And that's one of the beautiful things about the way better pacing of Spacial Rend. Spacial Rend is 50 energy instead of 65, and on a slightly glassier Pokemon like Palkia, having a cheaper nuke move is just unbelievably good synergy with the moveset and its stats. They go for a Draco, and now I see why. The fact that they stayed in and Draco'd, I wanted to shield because I'm thinking they're probably weak in the back, and they are. They have a Zacian in the back. I'm noticing this opponent did have slightly underleveled Pokemon, which these are practice battles with members of my Discord, because obviously the Master League left and we're stuck with Catch Cup, and playing Catch Cup does not sound like a fun time, so we're in the Open Master League testing this out. The close combat is going to connect, but now I can just continue to debuff this Dialga. I go for the Psychic Fangs, and you know what? Let's close it out with the Palkia. Palkia winning the race, getting the Dragon Breath down, and that is a good game. All in all, Origin Palkia is a force to be reckoned with in the Open Master League. It is just a strict improvement from the regular Palkia, which already itself was a very good core breaker, but was a little bit held back by the fact that it was just slightly too glassy in certain situations. And Draco Meteor, considering how glassy it was, felt a little too expensive. Origin Palkia solves both of those problems. The cheaper nuke move that can still output massive damage, and the better bulk allows it to tank hits a lot better. This Pokemon is absolutely amazing, and I'm expecting that once it does get its global release, it's going to be absolutely everywhere. This thing lives up to the hype and is well worthy, in my view, of that #1 ranking in the Open Master League on PvPoke. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.